What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast, where I, Tony Mango, and Robert D. Felice
are
going to talk about Elimination Chamber Toronto, because they don't want to call it Elimination Chamber 2025 for some reason, but it is happening this Saturday, and we are going to break down the usual stuff we do here, the card, what we think is going to happen, what we like, what we don't like, all that good stuff. And we want you to do the same. So if you are on Facebook, Twitter, Discord, anywhere out there in the world, we want to hear what you have to say. Also, leave a comment below on YouTube if you're over there. Make sure you also hit on that like button. Hit on that like button. Yeah, tell it it's hot. Hit that like button. Click on the notification bell. Get your email alerts set up for the live post show immediately following the pay-per-view. Make sure that you click the share button right next to subscribe. Right next to subscribe, there is a join button.
You speak English?
I do. The join button gives you access to the same stuff as the Patreon. Patreon.com/SmarkOutMoment. Both of those are great ways to help us keep the lights on here. We might do another dark cast of the Call the Spot for the Elimination Chamber. You can see where that might fit in. I might end up just recording it after this or something. I don't know. But, you know, you can only get on the Darkcast by getting on the Darkcast here. So join that. Redbubble and TeePublic is where you get merchandise too. If you want to pick up a hat or t-shirt or stickers or phone case or any sorts of different things, there's lots of products, lots of different ways for you to slap some designs on there for Fanboys Anonymous, Smark Out Moment, and a Mango Tees. Check them out if you're interested. And I'm going to say something about this Elimination Chamber card that is going to immediately give people the wrong impression of what this podcast is going to be, which is I feel like I could skip already 75% of what this is, and that would make me enjoy it more. And I'm working under the assumption that WWE is not going to change my mind about that, and that I'm going to, at the end of this pay-per-view, go, the two chamber matches were pretty good. One of them was better than the other one. The unsanctioned match was a solid match, but I don't know why we had it. And there was a lot of wasted time. Because right now, as it stands at 11:11 on Monday night, Raw just ended not that long ago, we have 4 matches on this card. And we also know they're not going to add any more because they have a 5th segment. And I want to start there more than anywhere else, because that segment, I can put it this way. I don't forget if I typed this out on the Ring Report or Smart Guy Moment or wherever it was, where I said, Cody Rhodes tonight talked about how he talked on Friday and how he's going to talk again on Friday, and then he's going to talk again on Saturday, and then on Monday we're going to have a recap of him talking.
Well, as you said that, my brain literally started sparking. What?
Because what is happening, for anybody that's not following this, and maybe you're just following Smark Out Moment instead, The Rock came out on SmackDown to say, after like a half hour or whatever it was, of a bunch of absolute nonsense that does not matter, where he turned heel and face like 30 times. I think it was Meltzer had said he turned face and heel more times than Big Show, just in one segment.
Well, did you update the chart or what? Like,
I'm not even bothering with that, because it's just like, all right, well, you can't keep track of something that's in a constant state of flux. The Rock rambles and rambles about nonsense, and I'm thinking, oh my God, we're having another one of these NXT segments. He's announced already that WrestleMania 42 is happening in New Orleans, which, by the way, they are already putting out ticket information more for that than they were doing a month ago for this year's WrestleMania. I do not understand how that's the case. Maybe that's because they don't pay the right people behind the scenes to do these things, because they don't pay them as much as they should anyway. But The Rock, if we're going to boil this all down, says, Cody, I love you for some reason, but I also want you to sell your soul to me and be my champion. And Cody comes out on Raw this week to say, if you didn't see that segment, that's what The Rock said. And what that means is, basically, I turn heel, but I don't want to say turn heel. And that's what he's asking me, and that's what I'm going to address in the future. I'm not going to tell it now, but I'm just going to say that I'm going to say something after I said something. And Seth Rollins comes out and goes, fucking come on, man. That's basically this whole segment. Now, between the Rock segment on SmackDown, Cody's segment on Raw, I guarantee you we're going to waste time on SmackDown this week with a recap of that.
Of both.
If not, also another segment where somebody talks to Cody backstage and says, like, come on, man, what are you thinking? Or something like that. God forbid he cuts another promo about how he's got something important to talk about tomorrow. On Saturday, the pay-per-view starts at 5 p.m. and it's listed as going on for 6 hours.
Well, now to be clear, the pre-show starts at 5.
Right. But, I mean, technically speaking,
I know
we're supposed to watch it. Yeah.
I just don't want to mislead the people.
Now, the pay-per-view itself, like the main card, does that start at 6 or does it start at 7?
7.
So it's going to be 2 hours worth of talking about 4 matches and a promo. And then we can guarantee between commercial breaks, video packages, The Rock coming out, Cody coming out, The Rock rambling, and then the commercial breaks and everything that happens after Cody says yes or no. This is going to take up, just on the pay-per-view itself, well over half an hour.
45 minutes.
I'm thinking 45, potentially an hour, if you count the pre-show type stuff that
if we count the preamble and the recap of the spoiler, he's gonna say no. If we count the recap of that and the preamble, it'll probably take up to 50 minutes.
Insane. I'm so sick and tired of that shit.
By the way, who's not on this podcast, doesn't watch these shows.
And I don't blame him for those things, because it's like, if you just show me these 4 matches, I already go, 2 matches sound like they're pretty interesting because they're elimination chambers. 1 is a complete waste of time. It's just Tiffany Stratton and Trish Stratus versus Nia Jax and Candice LeRae. Don't you love that Trish is here and we're just wasting time? And then an unsanctioned match that's going to lead to a different feud and is killing time, but could be a lot of fun.
We don't know that last part.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah, I was like, just like, don't bury that completely.
But I go, man, those elimination chamber matches combined should be an hour. And the other 2 matches on that show,
they're going to be 2 hours. Entrances and, preamble, post-match jargon and all that. They're going to be 2 hours.
It's going to be a miracle if by the end of this pay-per-view, after 6 hours of watching this and almost nothing happening, if I'm not on the post show going, oh my God, I don't fucking care. This happened, that happened, that happened, that happened, the end of it. And then moving on.
Now, so I will say very briefly, one of my big issues with this is something that we've talked about for a couple of years now, but it's getting worse, which is they have so many championships. They don't defend any of them on these pay-per-views anymore. Like, you've got all this time and you're like, oh, well, we'll do Rhea and Io tomorrow on Raw. And we'll do, LA Knight and Shinsuke Nakamura the night before. And we'll do the World Tag Team Championship match the night after. It's like, you could have a 4-hour card chock full of matches. And I'm not saying do completely AEW where you just like, there's very little time to
19 matches on the show, and a lot of them are like, you didn't need this.
I'm not saying do that, but I'm also not saying 4 matches and a promo. And by the way, I don't like that. Is this the new method going forward of people just don't defend their titles after a certain point on the road to WrestleMania? you could have done Trish versus Tiffany, and then you've got a fun thing of like, who's Charlotte gonna face? Will will she face Trish? Well, it's generational either way you look at it. You could have done that. You could have done, hey, AJ Styles versus Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental Championship. You could have done anything really, and it's like,
I mean, the Intercontinental title alone, we just said Dominic Mysterio against Braun Breaker. If they want to do what we are kind of assuming it's Braun Breaker versus AJ Styles, this little mini feud that's happening in the meantime with the Judgment Day, you could do Braun Breaker versus Finn Balor. You could do the Dom match, and it's for the Intercontinental Championship. You can do, you mentioned like United States title, like that's up for grabs. The
women's IC title they just did tonight. I don't know what they're doing with the women's
pointless match as well.
Yeah,
but like they could have.
I'm just saying you could have.
Mm-hmm. But they could have announced that Ivy Nile gets her title shot at Elimination Chamber, and they could have done that. They could have done, if Gunther wants to be a fighting champion and prove how much better he is and all that, why not have Gunther versus Jimmy Uso?
I was gonna say that,
and have like, I'm going to prove that I can beat Jey Uso again. I'll even beat your brother. And it's like, if somebody goes, oh, it can't happen because he's cross-branded, they pop up on both the shows anyway. It doesn't fucking matter.
And okay, like, look, I will grant you. But let's not act like, Gunther couldn't have faced... Did Finn Balor ever get his one-on-one match?
If he did, I don't remember it.
I don't think he did.
I think he
just
did.
Threw Priest in there. Like, you could have done that. I mean,
why we were talking about this before we got started. Why did Solo Sikoa attack Cody Rhodes?
Now, I have
not that I wanted it to be Solo Sikoa in another title match against Cody Rhodes, but at least that would have.
Go back to, well, I think right now, and look, if it's not this way, so be it. But right now, it's coming across like they just decided again on a whim. Dwayne's in for Mania. Let's shuffle the deck. Because realistically, there's only one thread, and we should probably start getting into the actual meat of the card, but there's only one thread tying anything that Dwayne said to the chamber itself. And it's like a very brief thing that you would have to have, you'd have to really be like obsessed with all of this and keeping track of who's saying what. Other than that, it just seems like, okay, so your main hook for this card came together 8 days before the show? What? You're a multi-million-dollar company with all these hours of content. Really? That's my issue, is like it comes across half-assed, even though there's so much time put into these builds, because there's so much time on these television shows.
I just hate that, like, it's a no-win scenario almost. They spend a bunch of time on this, and they waste an hour with Cody and The Rock talking, and you wax poetic over Goosebumps, and The Rock talks about how he loves the crowd, and then he says, you all have syphilis, and then he says, I love you anyway, or, the bullshit that goes back and forth like that. He repeats, I'm going to say this, what's the over-under on him repeating Be My Champion when it comes to, let's say, 8 times? You going over or you going under?
Maybe I'm being kind here, but I'll go under. I think maximum 4.
I'll take the bet and I'll say over. I think he's going to rapid fire. I think he's going to be like, The Rock asked you last week to be to be my champion. I want you to be my champion. I want you to be everyone's champion, but more importantly, to be my champion. I want him to be like rapid fire.
Dude, I'm fine with that. Except for the fucking fact that the man came out on January 6th and said, yeah, I love everybody. Love Solo. Love Roman. Love Cody. Love. It's like, what did you just decide out of nowhere 8 days before a show to be like, hey, I'm a heel again, and I want you to be my champion, and give me your soul. What? Like, give me your soul?
And then the great thing about this is we don't have to wrestle.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
For World Wrestling Entertainment.
Let's talk about that. So then they do a fucking post show for SmackDown where The Rock says, well, the great thing about the Final Boss character is I don't have to have a match with Cody, which, again, I hope I'm wrong. I'm just reading into things. Reads to me like I decided not for Cody, but I will be involved in the story. Because it's like, what? You wasted time. All of it's wasted time. That's my problem. Is there's so much content, and all of it looks like filler half the time. We got
the amount of time that they put into this, and the amount of like television that they have, they really don't accomplish anywhere near as much as they should.
And then they'll do a supercut montage of everything that's happened between Rock and Cody and make you think it's this great story when you realize it's like 2% of what's actually happened the last year.
Did you ever see those videos where, and I know it's like a meme, but I think this kind of applies here, where I can't think of the person's name, so sorry, I can't give you credit. They'll take, like, say, Oreos, and they'll smash them up, and they'll make like an Oreo out of the Oreos, and then they'll smash it up, and then they'll make a milkshake, and then they'll turn that into ice cream, and then they'll freeze the ice cream, and then they'll make an Oreo out of it.
No, what? No.
You never saw these things? They'll just keep going and keep
seems
going.
Like it's up my alley.
And it's like, at the end of it, it's like you just did like 40 steps of deconstructing and reconstructing like s'mores. And you end up with s'mores. And it's just like, I feel like what WWE does, where it's like you've got Raw and SmackDown and NXT and LFG and eventually Evolve and all these AEW, A&E shows and Speed and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, okay, what should I have watched over the course of the 20 hours or whatever it is that we have this whole week? What should I really have paid attention to? And then you're like, well, there's about like an hour and a half. Okay. I don't look forward to this segment because it's no win in the sense of if they do waste all the time for that and it ends up being Cody just says yes and then they shake hands, it'll be like, well, why didn't he just do that on SmackDown? And if he says no, then you need to follow it up in a way immediately that makes it interesting, because if they follow that up with The Rock being like, okay, you made your decision and I'm mad at you, there's going to be repercussions, hit my music, I'm going to leave, and Cody just looks a little bit like, I wonder what that means, then it's going to be like, motherfuckers, why did you waste 2 hours of my goddamn time just to go, yeah, never mind, we'll figure it out another time, and then inevitably talk about it again and go, well, that'll happen in the future. That's not good storytelling. For anybody who thinks that that's like, oh, it's a slow burn, there's a difference between a slow burn and dragging things out. And there's a big difference between a surprise that's like a well-written twist and a surprise that comes out of nowhere and it just sucks. Look at it this way. I'll use my Star Wars analogies. No, I am your father. Oh shit, that's an interesting twist. Somehow Palpatine's returned. Fuck you.
Okay, I like when we get to crap on the sequel trilogy, but
hashtag.
You know, I do think that there's going to be a payoff to this. You think it'll be interesting? I just think you have so much time and you could be telling the story, and instead you make yourselves look incompetent, like you're slapping things together. You know what I mean?
I think it's because they ultimately just are. And like, I'm curious if we'll ever find out why or how this came about. But there is a part of me that wonders, did they not have any plan? Or did they just fold this into the plan? Or was this something that they were like, shit, we're not selling tickets for Mania. We need to figure out something for The Rock to do. And after brainstorming, they were like, well, how about you just do some kind of managerial thing?
I think. Okay. Well, okay. Hold on. Let's put a pin in this because it ultimately ties into the main event. Let's put a pin in this, run through the other 3 matches, and then come back around.
The easiest one to run through is Tiffany Stratton and Trish Stratus are obviously beating Nia Jax and Candice LeRae.
Absolutely. Trishy time and Tiffy time and Tirana time, and we're having a good time.
Trish Finney Stratton's it doesn't quite work out, but they have Strat-on and Strat-us. Somebody's got to be some kind of Brangelina that works with that.
Yeah. Either way, we're all going to be satisfied. Trish can still go. She looks amazing. Tiffany is about to go one-on-one with Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. Nia Jax and Candice LeRae will probably be in the Women's Tag Team Championship Fatal 4-Way.
Who do you think the other teams are? Damage Control and who?
Damage Control and Lash Legend and Jakar Jackson.
Could very well be. We do have new tag team champions tonight, as of an hour ago. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez won those belts from Bianca Belair and Naomi, and we'll talk about that in a moment as well.
Talk about that right now.
I mean, we might as well. The Elimination Chamber match includes Liv Morgan and Naomi and Bianca Belair. Also has Bayley, Alexa Bliss, and Roxanne Perez in the mix. And they didn't do anything with Bliss or Bayley or Perez, other than Bayley and Perez had some kind of, I guess, backstage segment during the commercials on Netflix, which...
Yeah, okay, so I watched on a PN tonight. So I can tell you that they do actually do a handful of important segments during the commercial breaks. So they did that. They did Logan Paul and AJ Styles had a tense altercation. They had New Day saying that dropping Big E was the best thing they ever did. I'm like, shouldn't that be on your TV show? No? Okay.
It should, yeah.
Like, so there is that, and I feel like Perez and Bayley should be in a women's IC match. But at the same time, I mean, maybe this is the best time to talk about it. There is the reports that the women aren't happy. Right? Like, there's the reports that they want more than just tag matches if they're not going to be featured in the title matches. Which, by the way,
can't blame them.
Who's been beating that drum on this podcast? Who's been saying for like 3 years at least, hey, why don't you just do grudge matches with women like you do with men? I never understood that. I'm glad the women are standing up for themselves. You know, I'm not going to say give divas a chance, but like, they fucking earned it. Like,
and it's another report that goes along with that I fully agree with is if you're going to have a limited amount of time that you have for the women as it is, because let's face it, it's a limited amount of time for everybody. You know, the 3-hour episode of SmackDown, you don't have 3 full hours, so on and so forth. But if you're going to limit the amount of time to the women, then why double up on some of them? Like, why is it now? Like, I love Bianca Belair. She is one of my absolute favorite women that's ever been in WWE. But why is she in the tag team division and fighting for the mid-card title and fighting for the world title? Maybe Bianca doesn't need all 3 aspects of the roster on her and then also pop up on Raw. Maybe give one of those to somebody else and let, I don't know, maybe Zelina Vega do something, or maybe instead of being in the tag team title picture, maybe they should have fucked off a while ago and it could have been somebody else. Because now, at this point, Bayley and Roxanne, their feud has taken so much of like a downturn for the main roster that if you tried to just be like, oh man, it's going to be Bayley versus Roxanne at WrestleMania, everybody would be like, fucking again? Really? That's it? Just that? They've already fought a couple times. They've mostly been fighting in NXT, and it just doesn't have the momentum anymore. So what else do you do with these people? Be a sin if like Bayley's not at WrestleMania. And if Roxanne gets up to the main roster and immediately has nothing to do, then what the hell, you know?
Yeah, and I'm going to read an excerpt from this Fightful report again. There was also a point of redundant storylines with the same talent not only being featured at the top of the card, but even in the mid-card title scene. So, as you're pointing out, like, why is there no separation? And I think it's ultimately because outside of the token, look at us, we care about women, yay, yay, like, they didn't know what to do with them. Once they crossed that bridge of, hey, the women headlined, I can speak English, headlined 6 years ago, they didn't know what to do with them. You know, like, they were like, oh, cool, we crossed that bridge. Can we go back to fucking off? Like,
yeah, it always shows you how people really feel. And when you see what they're doing when they don't have to do something.
You know, it's the Vince as Santa Claus, like, here's your fucking tag titles, shut up.
Yeah.
Like, and I told you, I'm not going to go Twitter stan and be like, they had an iconic match tonight and it was the best tag match of all time. But it was probably the best women's tag match I've ever seen this company put on. And it happened in like 10 minutes just because it made them feel like they cared. And I ultimately feel like they don't care because, well, we got Charlotte Flair back. That's something, isn't it? Isn't it something that we have Charlotte Flair back? And even Charlotte, by the way, even Charlotte picking Tiffany seemed wildly uninspired.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and there's no energy behind it. She's like, I'll pick you.
She is going full blown, I am a deity, and anything I do means something because I am a deity. And it's like, I just wish there was a little more feeling behind it. Because, you know, I genuinely do love the women's division of WWE and of AEW. And, like, I love women's wrestling. And I wish they were actually being featured heavily again and not just like, wow, isn't it great that we feature them, but then they really don't? You know what I mean? Like, it's all just kind of fluff. It's all just gassing you up. And when you look at it and you really dissect it, you go, there's not much here.
Mm-hmm.
There's not much.
It shouldn't be a situation where, look, realistically, Rhea Ripley is not losing that belt to Io Sky. Everybody that's like, oh, that's the match that should have been a Mania and all that, you're not getting it at Mania. And
I could see a world where you get a three-way.
Possibly, but I think even that's a stretch.
I do too.
And the Women's World Championship match is going to be Rhea Ripley versus one of these 6 women. And I don't know who that's necessarily going to be, but the biggest and most likely option feels to me like it's not what they should be doing. And Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair already feels burned out to me. Like, I don't feel any enthusiasm to it. They don't seem like they know where their characters need to go. Stratton is like somewhat babyface, but at the same time, it seems like they don't really want to push her in that way. They just want her to be defaulting into that position. And Flair's just boring. Like, Flair's been boring for like 7 years. But
I always say, you know, was it 2020 when she won the Rumble? It was like after, yeah, because she had the match in the pandemic.
Yeah,
with Ripley. After she won the Rumble, and after the pandemic, the Jets just kind of cooled off with her. For
Pretty
me,
much.
at least, it just felt like, all right, I'm Charlotte. I can float. You know what I mean? Whereas, like, you can argue that it was too much Roman, but you can at least say Roman got energized, stepped up, completely different layer of his character, brought his entire family. I know it's the gimmick, but literally brought them to relevancy, like in a way that's never been seen before. Flair, it just felt like, yeah, I did all this. I'm good. Like,
Flair takes off like 60% of the year, if not more, shows up, wins a championship, drops it pretty soon afterward, then takes off.
and to be fair, I know it sounds like we're picking on her, but that's basically been what she's done, with the exception of 2024, of course, because she did get legitimately hurt. But that was basically what she was doing for a while. Was just, okay, I'll show up. Okay, I'm winning a belt, and I'll, go away for a little while and do something else. And I want more energy from this. And don't get me wrong, the match in April will be tremendous. I'm not doubting that. They will have a fun match, but it's the idea of, I don't want 5 weeks of, you think it's Tiffy time, but really it's whatever time I say it is because I'm the queen. Here's a video package. Here's a video package. You think it's Tiffy time, but it's gonna be this.
It
That's
is
the
Tiffy
part.
time. You used to be the queen, but I'm gonna dethrone you. And
Yeah. Thank you. Like, it's
oh my god, look at that! Charlotte Flair hit her from behind. Oh, that's gonna be such a big rivalry between those two because she's standing above her with the championship posing
at
again.
at most, and this is if they follow up in this way. At most, the benefits of this rivalry will happen after the Mania match. They'll have one of those rivalries where it'll actually just get started at Mania, even though they do that less and less these days. But this feels like an opportunity for one of those.
In any case, if that's the Royal Rumble win, and that's the big women's championship match there, Rhea Ripley right now is going into this with, I don't know, I guess I'll fight whoever wins. And there's really nothing to it, which means the most interesting story that's going on right now in the women's division is who attacked Jade Cargill.
And it's just Naomi, guys.
It's probably just going to be Naomi, which means if it is just Naomi, then it's just what, Jade versus Naomi at WrestleMania? Is that worth being on the WrestleMania card? Because I don't think so.
I do, if only to serve my own purpose of, I want women's grudge matches.
Would you rather have that, or would you rather make sure that all of the championships are defended?
I would rather give the women's mid-card championship to one of those ladies and let them fight it out at WrestleMania. I mean, you could kill two birds with one stone, because, again, guys, you have 95 hours of content. Just change the title on one of those shows. You can have, whether it's Naomi or, Jade, or beating either Chelsea or Michin, you can do that whilst also building the Mania match.
Still think that there's a chance it could be Chelsea and that they put the belt on Jade, but we could see about that. But like, out of this group for the Elimination Chamber, you've got Roxanne Perez is not going to fight Rhea Ripley.
I would like to see her fight Rhea Ripley, if only because it's different.
She needs to get another Roxanne Perez to stand on her shoulders.
I'm not gonna say new is always better, but like, it is an option, and it is different. The beauty of this match, honestly, and the beauty of the prospect of the Rhea Ripley match is, for the most part, everyone except Naomi Naomi and Bliss probably, but Bliss is also wildly popular and fresh because she just came back. It is insanely built up and can just go with Ripley because, well, I don't know, like, Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, we haven't seen that, but yeah, obviously we're not going to, but that's an option, and we do know it can be a big story. The one I think everyone is going with is Bianca and Ripley, because it's Bianca and Ripley, and even if the story getting there sucks, it's gonna be a better match than Charlotte and Tiff.
And that's what sucks about it, though, is because we've been wanting this match for years.
And they're getting to it in the most lackluster way.
Yeah, they're doing it because that's what my pick is going to be. Bianca Belair too. Look, it's not going to be Bliss, but she's like basically the number 2 because
Bliss is I was gonna say Bliss is my number 2.
At least in that regard, it would be like, well, she's been away for a while, you know. But like, it's not going to be Bayley. It's not going to be Naomi. It's not going to be Roxanne. Liv Morgan just won the tag titles. It would be insane for her to be the one that wins and then just ignore the tag titles.
But again, the other one is Bayley, and say what you will, Bayley is like the Randy Orton of the division. You plug her in at any point, makes sense because she's Bayley.
Only makes sense in the way of she's a veteran, but not in the way of this is a good feud. This makes sense. She's got momentum. That's a match everybody wants to see. Like,
none of these women do it at this stage right now.
Right.
None of them do. That's why I was pushing for Charlotte to challenge Ripley, because at least you can go, they're 1-1 at Mania. That's your story. That's your hook.
And Bianca winning is like, okay, well, she got out of the way now with the tag titles, so it makes it a little bit easier for her to win, sure. But if Bianca just goes, I won the default challenge spot, and Rhea goes, cool, see you at Mania. 5 weeks later, what do? For they just spend the whole 5 weeks going, I respect you, but I'm going to beat you. I respect you, but I'm going to beat you. That's boring. And I don't think we're going to see Bianca Belair turn heel, but I hope she does, at least just to save that.
The only way, if she turns heel, you could have it saved by saying that she and Naomi attacked Jade, but then it would be like,
then why'd you lose the United States title thing? Like, and then that's where WWE probably goes, just shut up and just, we didn't plan this at all, and we really hope that you don't remember that detail.
Jade got shoot hurt, like we had to scramble. Relax. Like,
I hate when that shit happens, but it's happened more times than it should. And yeah, Bianca versus Rhea at Mania, hell of a match.
It is a Mania match.
But they shouldn't book Mania just a few weeks in advance, just going, well, fuck, we don't really want to do anything ahead of time, so if we just give them a match that's good, then that's good. Because the whole point of all of the episodes of Raw and SmackDown and everything is to lead up to pay-per-views.
Premium live events.
Pay-per-views. And these, quote, premium live events are supposed to have been the like culmination of these storylines. I'll use another analogy from films. You don't go, okay, look, Avengers 1 ends with a tease of Thanos, and everybody knows we're going into the Infinity Gauntlet. So in the next movie, we just assemble the Infinity Gauntlet and do it. Okay. And you don't go, okay, well, the alternative is we can't do it for the next couple of years. We need to cram a couple more movies in there. So in the meantime, let's do movies that have nothing to do with this, and then just go at the last second. Anyway, remember that story we told a while ago? And that's the problem with the current phase of the MCU right now, is because none of the movies actually matter, and they're not actually building towards anything because they abandoned Gang because they didn't want to just recast. Anyway, so the idea in mind, it's stupid to go, Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair is going to be a good match. It doesn't matter what we do for a month and a half ahead of time. And it doesn't matter if we've done nothing to set it up other than the two of them stared at each other once every 7 months. But the match will be great, and the people online will just jizz their pants over the fact that this is even happening. And the stands are going to go nuts, and they're going to act like it was the greatest thing that ever happened in world professional wrestling. Do better. You are a storytelling company that wants to tell everybody at every single opportunity, even when
That
you
you're
make
more
the
than
opportunity
wrestling.
up out of nowhere, that you are more storytelling than you are pro wrestling. And then you go, and we don't actually want to tell a story. We just want to do the pro wrestling thing and coast for a month. Fuck that. If I wanted that, I would watch AEW.
Now, okay. You'll think it's boring, but my default for this is always, all right, they're two jacked women. Just fucking, if you got nothing for them, then just fucking show them training. Do the Brett and Sean. Do the Brett and Sean.
You know what was a fun thing that they did before that they haven't done in long enough that I can't remember the last example of it other than the one I'm just about to say. Remember when MVP and Matt Hardy were feuding for like, I don't know, like what felt like 2 years, and they were eventually doing like challenges to be like, okay, who's better at this? Who's better at that? Oh, I'm better at like, I don't know, fucking this obstacle course or something like that. If the story's going to eventually just be Rhea and Bianca are the two top women in this division and they have history together, but it's not a bitter rivalry. It's just two good wrestlers against each other. Put them in like the beat the clock challenges, or like allow them to pick challengers for them in the meantime. Like, okay, well, instead of it just being like, by default, we're going to have Rhea against Naomi in a match and Bianca against, I don't even know who, Rhea doesn't have any friends.
I don't know why that made me.
It's not going to be like Kathy Kelly, you know what I mean? Like on camera, Rhea's only friend really
what you do is, like, I get what you're saying. Like, this week I want to see you if you can KOD Piper Niven. We know she can, but still I want to see if you can KOD Piper Niven. Okay, well this week I want to see if you can Riptide Raquel. Yeah, again, we know she can. These are bad examples, but you get where I'm going.
Or you even just flip the script. We know that Bianca can give a KOD to Piper Niven because she's done it like 19 times, and each time they act like it's the first time. Let's see if Rhea can give a KOD to Piper Niven. Look at that. I can even do your finisher better. Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to follow that up by doing a Riptide on so-and-so and show you're not anything special. I could do your moves too. Like,
I like that. That's
they
fun.
could do some interesting things,
but again,
they have to cram it.
Fun here. They're gonna have to have fun here.
Yeah, it can't just be I respect you and I'm gonna beat you. Well, I respect you, but with all due respect, I'm gonna beat you. I'll see you at WrestleMania, and then in the meantime, we just have video packages. But I do think it's gonna be Bianca winning this.
Feels like somebody should say, "Bitch, I respect you, but I'm gonna beat you." Bitch. She said the thing.
Okada's here.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that is his thing now.
So it's not going to be Naomi. It's not going to be Bayley. It's not going to be Bliss. It's not going to be Morgan. It's not going to be Roxanne. It's pretty much just got to be Bianca. And yeah, the match itself at Mania is going to be good. But I really hope that they don't botch the road to get there, because it's starting to feel like we're already in the March doldrums of them not knowing what to do. Because look at the way that they're using Gunther and Jey Uso.
Well, and that was a given. We knew that was coming.
It's wasting time. And Stratton and Stratus, they win. Bianca wins. I think that's what we're looking at for the women's division on this card.
Yep.
Now, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are in an unsanctioned match. What does that mean? It means it's an ODQ match.
I'm wondering if they threw this together for no other reason than... And look, they've earned it. I'm not going to fight them. They've earned it. Sami and Kevin really just want to fight in Skydome.
Could be that. It does feel like this is like a stopgap. And I'm still working under the assumption that Randy Orton is going to come out and he's going to hit Kevin Owens with a weapon or give him an RKO or something. And it's going to be Orton versus Owens at Mania, which isn't super great to me in some ways, because it's like, okay, well, it's going to be just a match and we're going to be told, oh man, this bitter rivalry and all this. But it's not going to be like a street fight or something, most likely.
We got to stop with this bitter rivalry.
Yeah.
It's like,
and in the meantime, what does Sami Zayn do? Is it just going to be Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross?
I don't think so, because like
that's a lingering story.
But he's also kind of talking about maybe being a face these days.
Who, Kross?
Kross. Not like on TV, but the fans have been reacting stronger to him, and he's been acknowledging it. And I'm like, I don't know. It's weird. But I also don't want Sami to be without anything fun for Mania. And I know not everybody can be booked at the top of the card, but like, Sami feels like he's earned being booked somewhere near it. You know what I mean?
It doesn't seem like they're really following through with any of this like theory that people had about Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins and all these people are going to get some kind of new group together. And Sami seems as far away from that group as possible now.
Well, because believe it or not, it's been a month since the Rumble, right? And the absence of Roman Reigns and the weird decision to put Jey Uso over and have him fight Gunther has kind of taken the whole idea of, all right, all these people are mad at the people teaming with Roman and just sort of thrown it out the window. Even though that was like one of the cohesive stories you had going on.
What do you think that they're going to do with Sami at Mania?
If I had my wish, as much as it sucks, I'd probably just keep Orton off the card for now and have Sami and Kevin like do like a Hell in a Cell or something. I would just have them fight.
If they weren't doing this unsanctioned match here, because they can't just have like Owens beats up Sami and it's like a non-match, and then they just do the unsanctioned match again at Mania. I think that's you already have a promo on this card and a pointless tag team match.
I gotta tell you, you say that, but you're talking about Randy Orton. You want to tell me what they did with the Randy Orton storyline?
Right. I just think that that's too much on this card of not happening. But like I can't think of what they really do with Sami going forward. So I'm like, this Mania feels more and more like what I was worried about. That they just don't really have any plans. And they're like, look, we got to just do something. And this is like Mania 32 without the injuries.
Does he get Logan?
I hope not, because they've already been together.
But they haven't really been together. He brought Logan in as like, hey, come sit in the corner. But they haven't really done this.
Well, Logan Paul, we'll come back around to him in a minute too, because that's one of those main event things. I'm thinking it's an unsanctioned match. There really isn't going to be like a winner for the most part, unless they just have like, okay, there's actually a pinfall or something. But if there is, I think it's Sami Zayn beating Kevin Owens because of Randy Orton.
I'm going to guess Kevin Owens gets the win. Be careful what you wish for, Sami. Now you're really hurt. If there's an ending. But I can also see it being the lead off to a more important match at WrestleMania.
So the other match on the card, the Elimination Chamber match for the Undisputed title match against Cody Rhodes at Mania. We got Seth Rollins, Logan Paul, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, John Cena, and Damian Priest.
Now we go back to The Rock. And The only thing that we know for sure is somebody is selling their soul to be the WWE champion. That alone leaves me with two options. You got John Cena and you got CM Punk. Why those two? Because let's try to be as logical as we can here. CM Punk, in the eyes of many, did sell his soul to go back to WWE with the intent of, I have to fucking headline Mania. It's nice storytelling if it's, remember how he was pissed off that Dwayne was in the main event of WrestleMania and he wasn't. Now he can use The Rock to his advantage and just, be The Rock's champion. There's the Paul Heyman of it all. He still has a favor to call in. Heyman, theoretically, should still have a good tie to the final boss. Right? Like, that to me makes sense. I'm probably thinking about it way harder than WWE has, but that makes sense to me.
Well, Roman's just MIA.
Yeah, which I think has hurt this story, honestly.
If they want to do this CM Punk versus Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins triple threat for absolutely nothing match, I think that that's a waste. And not to be dismissive, but Damian Priest is a non-factor here. He's just in the match. He's not working into Mania, like in the title scene, at least.
If I had my way, I would replace Logan and Priest with Roman and Randy. And I would have made this like a real heavy hitter, John Cena's biggest foes kind of match.
Do you think that this is going to boil down to Priest is in here to beat and eliminate Drew McIntyre just so he can be like, okay, well, now we're just doing that feud?
I hope not. But yeah, that makes sense to me.
And Logan Paul's interacted more with CM Punk than anybody. It feels to me like if you're ignoring all the reports and all that stuff, the match should be CM Punk versus Logan Paul. I'm getting nervous about it. I am getting a little nervous. Because I'll say flat out, I'm not more than a fan, really. I don't want Logan versus Punk. Especially in the era of, like, Punk just wants his Mania main event. Can we just fucking get this guy his Mania main event so he can have some solace in his life? Like, can we get him that? But then that ignores the Cena element. Well, because let's be real here. What would Punk and Logan fight over? And they're going to throw in some kind of cheap shot that Logan can do a buckshot and he can't. And I'm really, honestly, I'm good. I'm good on the constant needing to bring up the Punk left. I'm good on the constant needing to bring up that he caused problems in AEW. I'd like people to move on. More on. What if there's real glass in the match? More on a lawsuit that was filed during the hot tags on Friday. No, I'd like people to move on. So I hope that regardless of what happens here, it's not Logan and Punk. But let's get back to the Cena of it all, because that's. I'll put this out here now. I think Cena's turning heel. So are you going in the direction of Cody says no to The Rock, and The Rock goes into Mania season being like, but that John Cena wins the Elimination Chamber, and that Rock is able to turn Cena heel, and yes, Mania 41 ends with Rock and Cena both being booed, Cena holding his 17th world title, Cody Rhodes laid out, and it's like, okay, heel Cena for this year. Yep. Because, and I thought this was weird the night that it happened at the Royal Rumble, when Cena was when he finally he gets to the post show of it all, the press conference of it all, and he says, "I'm gonna win the title because it's best for business."
Fast forward to Friday when Rock says to Cody, do what's best for business. And I know in your mind you're probably thinking, but they just did all that shit with the Authority. That was 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
That was 10 years ago. You can bring that back around. There's something here with John turning heel on Cody and almost doing a one-to-one depiction of Austin and Vince, where he's desperate and he'll do anything to do what's best for business. You can have him, kind of shake hands with The Rock. The Rock is the one monkey he never got off his back, because if you think about it, like even at last year's WrestleMania, they have a stare down for 5 seconds and Rock just drops him. Like, no questions asked. The last time he main evented anything at WrestleMania was shaking Rock's hand and, doing all that. You can recreate that scene with the idea of, now Cena's a heel. And it's also maybe fan service of, like, giving people the thing that they said they wanted for years.
Mm-hmm. And it gives them an opportunity to do something different, because if Cena doesn't turn heel, then we're going to get Cena versus Punk, Cena versus Logan Paul, Cena versus, like, any of those scenarios we're going to get the same match over and over again. Whereas if he's heel with that, then suddenly we can cheer CM Punk over John Cena, and the match dynamic is something we've never seen before. Seth Rollins versus John Cena. Oh my God, look at that. We've never seen babyface Seth Rollins against heel John Cena. How's that different? John Cena against even Roman Reigns again. If you do the heel turn and Cena walks out of Mania with the championship, excuse me, then you have to also figure out who's going to beat him for the title. And it immediately starts looking around. Well, there's the option of Cody Rhodes again. There's the option of Roman Reigns. There's the Randy Orton option. How do you play around with that? The only downside I could see to Cena turning heel is that throws a loop in, like, Cena Gunther.
Yeah, but I'm beginning to think if we didn't get it here, I'm beginning to think we just don't get it.
It might not.
Well, like, 'cause again, let's look at this real quick. Priest. Now, if you want to get cheeky, there is the footage of, like, Rock hugging Priest and congratulating him last year at WrestleMania, right? But realistically, there's not much there for Priest. There is the knowledge that, hey, Rock was factored into Drew McIntyre's contract renegotiations, and he gave him a sword.
Right.
So there's something there. But Drew versus Cody, after all that, it's not the greatest.
Drew versus Cody at Mania, when you have Cena, Punk, Rollins, Roman, and then also the rumors of Drew and Priest, and also the LA Knight and Drew McIntyre story. It's just like, you can't have 30 options and go, well, that's the one option is to go in a completely different direction from all that. That seems weird to me. But then again, it's a weird WrestleMania this time, so
it's just not going to be Logan.
It's a WrestleMania.
So that leaves you with, again, Punk, Cena, and Rollins. Rollins has to fight Roman.
Rollins is, if they do Rollins versus Cody, I'll be very shocked.
There's something there. I mean, you could make the argument that there's a thread there. He did come back to fight Seth. Seth did team up with him last year to fight Rock, but I don't see Seth doing, corporate champion again. And again, that's why it leads me back to the only fun and reasonable options are Punk and Cena. I'd be down for Punk. I'd be down to see Punk just be like yeah, I'm just going to do, I'll call in every favor, I'll stab someone, I'll, whatever I gotta do, I need to check this off the list. And then there's the story of, oh, it became real for John Cena when he hit the ground at the Royal Rumble. And that's why his whole speech was, screw you, I'm entering the Rumble because I've earned it. I don't need to qualify. Like, there's elements of what he did that were just like, all right, he's definitely doing something different here where he's just like, I'm John Cena and you're not, which totally fair. But in any case, I think we're looking at.
You sure he's not Chevy Chase instead?
I would be very surprised. In any case, I think we're looking at a story that dwells deep into the whole idea of what being champion and what being the quarterback and the company guy means. And the only two people I can see doing that well are Cena and Punk. So, granted, I thought the Royal Rumble was a lock for Punk. And at this point, if he doesn't headline this year, I don't know if he will in New Orleans. But I don't know. Gun to my head, I'm going Cena, and I'm going Cena turns heel somewhere between now and the end of WrestleMania 41.
That's where I'm leaning towards too. And Punk either is in a match against Logan Paul, or they have that triple threat with Rollins and Reigns, and it's just a meaningless triple threat match, and they just go, yeah, but those three guys are really important, so aren't you interested? And I would rather it be Punk and Logan Paul and Roman and Seth separately, because I'd rather it be, okay, the story for Rollins and Roman is this needs to end. And then Punk and Logan Paul just have a match, because I don't see where the Paul Heyman, like, the favor would make any sense, because it's not like he can book a title match and be like, well, insert me into the title card anyway or something.
No, it's difficult because the favor thing comes into play when you think about Heyman and The Rock, and the fact that they did have that brief connection. So you could, twist yourself up and get to that, but I'm ultimately going Cena wins here. There's a lot of discussion about what it means to be the guy, and then Cena does the unthinkable and he turns heel, aligns with The Rock, and does what's best for business. In any case, I'm good with it. Like, as long as it's one of those two, because I think they can pull it off. And I think that's the saving grace of all of this, because that to me is actually a fun story. Whereas what we were talking about with the Tiffany and Charlotte and the, Rhea Bianca, those don't seem like fun stories right now. At the very least, as much as I hate that they just threw it in there, it's a fun story to imagine, okay, who is going to be The Rock's guy moving forward?
And I'm hoping that they don't say what that is and just do it already. I would book this more so. Cody says no to, I wouldn't have booked this on the card as it is, the promo thing. But Cody says no. Rock tells him, like, oh, there's repercussions for your actions or whatever. And then, yeah, that's already disappointing of a segment. But I think before the Elimination Chamber starts, I think you have The Rock come out and he says a quick promo where he says, listen, everybody, Cody turned me down. One of you is going to fight Cody at Mania. I hope you make the right decision. And then throughout the whole Elimination Chamber match, that lingers. I'm going to go John Cena wins, though, for sure.
Yeah, I think...
And I think Roman Reigns, by the way, comes out and costs Seth Rollins.
Now that's interesting.
Because Rollins was the last guy that he did the stomp to Roman, and that's why he's quote-unquote out indefinitely.
Now, to be clear, that's the match I'm looking forward to the most, because I said it from the minute he lost last year. I said I wanted that to be the match this year. So if they actually get there, very happy with it. The only thing I'm not happy about on the surface is what does CM Punk do? But again, then you beat the dead horse of, well, I wouldn't have had Jey Uso in the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Like I would have just, because I would have just done Cena Gunther. And you could have done this story with Punk and Cody.
Yeah. And I would have done Roman and Rock.
I would not have done Roman and Rock. I'm good. We need to move on. They're not doing it. It's okay. It's okay.
Well, we will see what happens with Elimination Chamber on Saturday. In the meantime, we are going to have another round of the hot tags. So if anything changes before we record that, which is probably going to be Thursday night, I'm assuming, then we will talk about anything different there. We might have another episode of something in the meantime, whether that is the Call the Spot thing or it's one of the Pokemon ideas that we have for Pokemon Day, or I don't know. We'll see. We'll figure something out. So follow us. Check out what we got in the meantime. Make sure that you are checking out everything at amangotree.com for everything Smark Out Moment, Fanboys Anonymous, and all the other, Tony Mango type stuff that you can find on there. And follow Rob over at Dude Felice.
Yep, over at Dude Felice. That's on every social platform. You check out my writing on Fightful.com. You should check out Fightful Select, because that's where you get cool exclusive reports, like the stuff we were talking about earlier in the episode with the women being unhappy currently. And yeah, just stay tuned to everything going on under a mango tree, because I'm typically under a mango tree as well.
Underneath the mango tree.
That is objectively the worst movie.
All right, already. That's going to do us in for Elimination Chambers, Pay-Per-Viewpoint, pre-show, preview, predictions, all that pre-amble stuff. We'll see you next time. Adios for now, though. This has been another Smark Out Moment, and we're being counted out.